So I'm going to talk about writing. What I've been trying to write for the last 20 odd years is my autobiography / memoir. Apparently the Ponzi literary people nowadays have decided there is a distinction to be drawn between autobiography and memoir. A memoir is supposed to be a more highly focused version of, as far as I can see, just an autobiography. So it focuses on a particular aspect of your life or a particular period of your life, as opposed to covering your entire life. And the only real reason for making such a distinction, it seems to me, is if you're famous, you can write an autobiography and you can put in every single detail from beginning to end and everybody will be fascinated. Whereas if you're just speaking to a specific market, you can call it a memoir and write about just this specific topic. So one thing that this exercise has led me into is reading other people's memoirs, and I read quite a lot. Some of them are really, really gripping, and some of them are just hard work. And I'm sorry to say that the ones that are hard work tend to be self-published. There's so much stuff being published now that it seems to me that people decide, oh, I can't be asked with all that. I will get on with it. I will write it, format it, and publish it myself on Amazon Kindle. And so they do. And then they think, how are people going to find out about this? I know, I will post on Facebook. I will find forums and I will attract me an audience. And so they do. And idiots like me see their posts and think, oh, that looks really interesting. And I go on Amazon and read the first few pages and it has promise. And so I go ahead and send for the book. And I have to say that when I get those books home and I start to really get into them, they become very hard work indeed to read. And there are object lessons in why you should try and find yourself an agent, why you should edit and get somebody else to look over it and give you a good critical analysis, and why you shouldn't just go ahead and publish what you wrote yourself. Except for this guy. This I found a very interesting, fascinating story of his life. It's evidently written by himself. He has had an editor apparently go over it, and the editor hasn't caught all the typos. I'm afraid I'm a bit obsessive about misspellings and wrong words. I do notice them despite myself. And that doesn't matter. I mean, you can gloss over that. You can say, well, here he is. He's a very autistic person and he has his own idiosyncratic style, and that's fine. And his story is utterly astonishing. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's like things that you thought belonged to a bygone age, to the Middle Ages or something, are still apparently being perpetrated in America. He says, some people are shocked that I'm smart enough to talk. I was emotionally delayed by 15 years. That diagnosis was based on a lack of empathy. So his thing, he thinks, is lack of empathy. I stopped maturing at 7. Luckily, I started again at around 22 years old. Well, what actually happened was not that he stopped maturing, but that he got put into institutions. And there's no sign anywhere in this that he lacks empathy, but there's every indication that most of the people he came across in the institutions who were charged with his care and to look after his well-being and to be kind and sympathetic, most of these people are the ones who lacked empathy. So this is a kind of ironic title. It's the people who run the institutions who need to learn empathy and who apparently are incapable of it. Maybe they employ the wrong people, maybe they don't pay them enough. But the things he had to go through are absolutely appalling. So he's in this institution and he's in there with a whole load of other so-called retarded kids, and he describes loads of incidents like this one. A kid punches me straight in the face. I hit him back. They put the cuffs on me and I had to sit in front of the nurse's station. I'm only there for 2 hours. The kid punches him. They're allowing kids to punch each other. The following Monday, the doctor tells me, you're an autistic savant. You are retarded emotionally. You lack empathy. I say, fuck you too, you're fucking retarded. Can you imagine being him and being told, you're emotionally retarded, you lack empathy, when all he's done is he's had a meltdown because people have provoked him? Wouldn't we all do that? Come on now, we would. So he's got a job and he doesn't spend his entire life in institutions. He manages to escape from them eventually and get a job and start living like a fairly normal human being, except he goes for counselling. And the counselling takes place in the same place as they see the so-called retards. So he goes in and waits in the waiting room for his counselling session, and this really is inexcusable behaviour. Just listen to this. I walk into the office and sit outside my counsellor's door, and I had about 10 to 15 minutes to go. All of a sudden, a woman walks up and grabs my hand. She tries to pull me out of my chair. I quickly jerk my hand away. I say, what the fuck? The woman steps back and looks at me for a minute. She says, you spoke. I say, yes, I did. So what the fuck do you think you're doing? She says, you can't talk to me like that. I say, you should ask before you put your hands on me. Or are you so horny that you can't help yourself today? Which is quite funny, you have to say. She says, you can't talk to me like that. I say, you can't put your horny old hands on me like that. My counsellor opens the door and asks, are you ready, Matt? So this is obviously institutional abuse going on here. It seems quite endemic and it's quite horrific to read about. It's an absolutely enthralling book. The only time I got a bit disengaged, shall we say, from what he's saying is at the end of the book. He puts a whole lot of stuff about how he supposedly learned empathy and how he started doing lessons to help other people with empathy and what he does to avoid depression. And I think he could have done with an editor to help him to sort that out so it wasn't so repetitious and fitted in somehow better with the rest of the story. So this guy's bipolar and epileptic and autistic. You'd think people would have some understanding of these problems and set up the workplace to fit in with what he needs, and yet it seems like people were constantly harassing him and then blaming him when he reacted to it. This particular employee, who was the same rank as me, would walk by me and pat me on the head and say, good job. I asked him to stop multiple times. I talked to his boss to have him stop multiple times. This went on until I had a meltdown, which was their goal. Then I got in trouble. We discussed it, but it happened again and again. I continued to ask this guy and his boss to stop patting me on my head. It continued until I had another meltdown. Then I got in trouble again. I mean, this is crazy. Surely people understand what autism is all about nowadays. But they're just treating him like a toy, teasing and bullying. And so he is reactive, but you can understand with his condition that he would be, and nobody seems to be making any allowances for that. And what's more, they blame him even when he's not the one that starts the trouble. A few times someone got onto my face and I didn't punch them back. But 5 days later I had a massive fit after lunch. That afternoon after lunch I sat down at a bench under a window. I was looking toward the wall because I really didn't want to see everybody. All of a sudden a patient pulled me backward onto the floor. I was furious, but I didn't do anything and waited for the behavioural techs. They fastened my jacket anyway. It's a straight jacket. I started stomping, screaming and bitching even though I couldn't move my arms. I told them that I didn't do anything and I had waited for them. They sit my ass down in front of the nurse's station again. I sat there for the entire night. We walked down to the doctor's office. I was shaking. The doctor said, I see you certainly have more respect for me now. I can sit you in front of the nurse's station forever in the straitjacket. This is threats and menaces. Surely this is not the way you should treat people in a mental hospital. We need to address this, so you're going to start anger management group therapy and individual counselling as well, both every morning and every afternoon. You're not going to have time to get into trouble. If you act right in group and don't cause any problems this week, you will be out of the straitjacket. My counsellor is a woman that scared me. Women always frighten me. It's more the same that I learnt in group therapy. I cooperate because I really don't have any other choice. Also, she promised me I could have my arms free if I did. Coercion, bloody hell. I told her I was getting pissed off because other people came up and got my face or popped me or fucked with me. She said I had to learn to get through that because if I can't get through it here, I can't get through it on the outside. I said I don't see why I can't defend myself. She said it's not defending yourself once they've already popped you and you retaliate. Really? But I did cooperate, so she does let my arms go at the end of the hour. The whole next week went like this, and I didn't get in trouble for fighting with anybody because I've been in group or individual therapy the entire damn day. There wasn't any time to get in trouble. Yeah. This is the story of a man who can't control his anger, but doesn't really do anything bad. I mean, punching someone in the face, it's not like so many people you hear about who beat up their partners and get worse and worse, and they're all covered in cuts and bruises, and at the end of the day they kill them because the partner won't stay with them. And this guy is really quite harmless in comparison, and yet he's blamed and corralled and straitjacketed and told it's all his fault, basically. It's fascinating and horrifying at the same time. So anyway, I would definitely recommend this book. Learning Empathy, The Memoirs of an Autistic Savant. And he hasn't put his name on the cover. He's very self-effacing. Matthew Weatherford. Buy it, read it, share it. See you next time. Bye.